My whole life I've seen UFOs, but I didn't think it was strange. I just, look up and there it is. And I think the most common one, they look like stars. The most common ones I've seen look like stars. And there's many occasions where, I'd be sitting out in the backyard with my brother and we'll just be looking at a star and then suddenly the star will move somewhere and stop or change a direction or do something. And we say, okay, that's not a star. So that's the most common one. And there's a story where I went to a friend's cottage and we're all sitting out on the dock by the lake. And it's a beautiful night. You can see all the stars. And there was this really bright star in the sky. It was so bright, it was like casting this blue light on us. Like the whole lake was illuminated around us. And we're sitting and watching this star for about 20 minutes. And we're just saying, it's so beautiful. It's like, it's lighting up the whole area. I thought it was Polaris or, a very bright star. And then like a light bulb, it just turns off. And we're like, I guess that wasn't a star. That's happened a few times. I think I know why these things are attracted to certain people. And then the next one that I saw, which was, I would say, a monumental craft, like I wish I would see this every single day. It was like it looked almost exactly like that, like this red glowing orange plasma ship, and it was very big. And it was actually going over the lake where I live now in Barrie, Ontario. And at that time, there was like an outdoor festival going on. And there was a lot of people there. There was like bands playing. And over the lake, this huge UFO just comes and just hovers over the lake. And then all these little red ships, these little red orbs start flying and buzzing around like insects. And I was actually by the stage, and they had, I guess it was the roadies, they were cleaning up the speakers, and I'm standing there watching this, and the guy goes, "Is that a UFO?" I said, "Obviously it's a UFO." But there was like hundreds of people there to witness this. But this craft, I'm watching it, and just like someone turns a dimmer switch off on a light bulb, it just goes from there it is right in front of you to just someone turns a light off. I didn't see it shoot away. Didn't see it fly anywhere. It was just like a light, and then just poof, it's gone. And then, I guess there's a lot of stuff where I live, but I was driving, and when an airplane is coming and the sun is hitting it, so you have that really bright light hitting off the plane. So I'm driving and I see this plane. It's like very metallic. It's like a very metallic, shining plane, and the sun was hitting it, so the reflection was very bright off of it. And I'm watching it over here, and then in a blink of an eye, it goes to the other end of the sky. And I said, okay, that's not a plane either. Planes don't do that. And then this was actually in December. I saw my first TR-3B, and it was actually by my house. And it was actually flying pretty low. It was like right on top of the tree line. And I'm driving with my wife, and I see this thing above the trees. And the first thing I thought was it's a helicopter, because it wasn't that big. It didn't look very big. I just thought it was a helicopter. And then we opened up the windows, and there was no sound or anything, and it had 3 white lights around it and a red light in the center. And this thing just slowly made its way around the town, and we were just watching it go around the town. And we lived near a military base, so I just thought, this is some technology the military has that we're not supposed to know about. But I think there's a big difference in UFOs. There's a big difference between the stars, the plasma-type ships. The plasma-type ships almost look like they're alive, like they're living. There's something alive about these ships. And then these metallic ones, I think that they're more military-based. More military-based. This is what I think the UFO community has been looking at for about 100 years. And this explains everything. Okay. So if there's any truth at this conference, this is it. It's always out of our reach, is it not? It's always out of our reach. We can't grab it, touch it. We can experience it, see it, but it's always out of reach of us. But like a carrot in front of a horse, right? Is it not leading us on a path? Is it not making us question things, see things? It's almost like, here's something amazing that we don't know about, and it's exposing itself to us. And now it's been pulling us along some type of path for many years. But when I came into this consciousness, for me, UFOs and aliens and entities, it was not like a physical thing for me. This was a spiritual experience. That's what it was for me. It was a spiritual experience of expanding my awareness of where I live and who I am. So in this presentation, to go where I go to get this info, we really have to leave our beliefs behind of what these things are. Okay? Really have to leave everything behind us and just take it as an experience to learn and not put our beliefs on what these things are. So, my first memory coming into this world was actually a memory that I had of pre-birth. So, the first memories I have was coming to this world with other children. I remember being with other little babies, crawling on a floor. And this is not physical, this is like etheric. And we're going through a place that looks like an airport. And there's women standing there directing these children down different hallways. And one woman, pointed at me and said, "It's now time to choose your parents." And they directed me down a long hallway, and there was all these tiny doors down this hallway. And they opened one of the doors, and I went into it. And it looked like a movie theater. That's what this thing looked like. It was a dark room, and this portal opened up where the screen would be. And I got to sit and look through this portal, and I can see moments of my parents' lives. Before I was born, I could watch them. And then I feel it's like a magnetic pull. That's what it really feels like. It just feels like someone grabs you forward. It's a magnetic pull. And then suddenly I'm born. And I remember when I first started to speak, I would tell my mother, "Aren't you happy I chose you?" And she would just kind of look at me and, it's a sweet kid telling them that. And no, it came from that memory of choosing you. And, later in life, I told her this, and, she still, believes it. But growing up, I was a very psychic child. I was very gifted. And like most psychic children, I had something in my closet. And it was real. It was real. So every night I'd be so scared to go to sleep because things would happen at night when I go to sleep. And I had a closet door right across my bedroom. And every night before I go to sleep, I jam the door closed. You can't go to sleep without that door closed. And then in the middle of the night, what happens? Door slowly opens, and I pull the covers up over my head. And I go and I peek, and there's a shadow. It just looks like a person, but a shadow standing in my closet. Every time. And at nighttime, sometimes this shadow would take me places. It would take me out of my body as a child. It would take me into past lives. It would take me into past lives or even going back in time. Hello? where I assumed it was this person's life. I just thought it was a spirit and it was dead, because it used to take me down to my basement and show me a coffin there, and then we'd open the coffin and he'd show me a person inside the coffin. So as a child, I would just think that this spirit is showing me that it's dead in a coffin. And then when I would look outside, it wasn't my house, it was somebody else's house, and it wasn't the park that I grew up in. It almost looked like I went back in time. So I was viewing this person's life, and it was trying to tell me something as a child. And also as a child, I had the ability to leave my body. And I just thought it was dreaming. I would just go to sleep, leave my body behind, and I'll go play in the park. I just thought that was completely normal. And when bad things happened, because in that world it's kind of weird, when bad things happened, I'd run to my parents and tell them, you know, all these things are happening, there's a monster in my closet, there's something crawling under my bed, and they would just tell me, Jason, everybody experiences this. This is called the nightmare. And I said, oh, these are nightmares, of course. And I just believed everybody had these things. It wasn't until I was 11 years old when I smartened up. I went to a new school, and I was starting to make new friends. And one of these friends was a young boy, and we're about 11 years old at the time. And when I saw them, all these past life memories came right back to me. And I remembered our whole life together. And it was very emotional, it was very traumatic to remember all these things. And I remember running up to this kid and, you know, so happy to see him. He doesn't know who I am, by the way. So I run up to this kid, I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to see you again. I can't believe you're here. Don't you remember me? And they're like, I don't know you, kid. Like, who are you? You don't remember me? I killed you in a past life. You know? And you know when the eyebrows go up? And then I realized, wait a second, you don't know about past lives? You don't know that you just keep coming back and relearning things? And then after that, I realized that nobody saw the world like me. And by the time I would say puberty hit, all my abilities went away. Everything stopped. Okay, so no abilities right when I started to get puberty, which was fine for me because, you know, you live a normal life and all these things are just, you know, make-believe and dreams, right? But I remember this life so clearly. It was so clear. We were knights together, me and this person, and we were working for the king. I don't know what time period. They never tell you in your mind, this is the year and this is where you are. You just remember a scene that happens. And what happened was somebody told the king that me and my friend were going to do something to the king. We were going to rebel. And the king didn't like that, so he gave me and my friend two choices. He said, either we kill you on the spot, or you fight to the death and the winner lives. So we chose to fight each other to the death. And my friend couldn't kill me. Sorry. And see, it's like I can literally go back and relive that whole life. It's not nice. But anyways, he gave me the signal and I killed him. And he let me live. And this life, I'm not a fighter. I mean, look at me. I'm not a fighter at all. Him, on the other hand, he's an MMA fighter in this life. Okay? See, I don't have the stomach for that anymore, but he's still in that mindset, which is, you know, it's good to have a best friend that's an MMA fighter, right? So nothing happened throughout my adolescence, no experiences. And then I started, like I said, working at the recording studio and doing the graphic design stuff. And in my early 20s, I started to have these experiences called sleep paralysis. Has anybody here had sleep paralysis? See? Okay. It's so common, isn't it? All right. What sleep paralysis is, I'll just show you an illustration of what it feels like. Basically, you wake up in the middle of the night. You're totally awake, but your body is in a coma. Your body is frozen. So you're literally screaming inside your mind. You're screaming, wake up, move a finger. You know, it's very frightening. It's very frightening. What makes this experience worse is you're not alone in the room. Okay? So this started to happen to me every single night. Every night. I'd go to sleep and suddenly I was so sensitive that I could actually feel something starting to walk into my bedroom. And as it walked into my bedroom, I'd feel my body get frozen. And I would just start freaking out, you know? And I didn't know why this was happening to me. And I'll just show you. This is like a common thing. You don't know how many paintings and illustrations I found on this. It feels like something crawls up on your body and sits on you and you can't breathe or move. It gets better. I mean, I could go through pictures like this all day. It's amazing. But there's something very weird that happened when I was put in this paralysis. I started to feel like a Russian doll. It's a very weird feeling because even though my physical body was asleep or paralyzed, there was another body inside my body. It was like my body became a sarcophagus, and I could actually move my other body inside my body. I could thrash around in that sarcophagus. So it's a very weird feeling, having like a body within a body. And one night, I just had enough. I was so angry, and anger is a good thing. It makes you do things. I was so upset and so angry that I was thrashing inside my body to wake up. And I shook so hard, I popped out of my body. And I came above my bed, and I could see myself laying on the bed. My body is right there, and I'm like flat as a board, frozen, and my eyes are wide open, which, you know, didn't help the situation. And then at the foot of my bed, I see this huge being standing at the foot of my bed. And it just looked like a big shadow. It looked just like the Grim Reaper. So my first thought is obviously, okay, I just killed myself. I'm dead. I see my body floating above it. There's the Grim Reaper. It's going to take me away. I'm dead. You know? So I was really scared. And then I got sucked back into my body and woke up, and my heart is pounding. And when you go through an experience like this, the first thing you think is, the physical world is not the only world. There's something outside of us. In fact, when I was out of my body, it was more real than this physical world. I can't explain that to you, but it was more real than this. It's almost like this is the dream. Okay, that's really real. And ever since I left my body, this thing left me alone. I never had sleep paralysis again. And I always thought that, you know, this is a very bad thing, like a demonic thing or an entity or something like that. But, you know, this happened a long time ago, over 15 years ago. To me, this is an initiator. It initiated me into my multidimensional awareness. And once I experienced being multidimensional, its job was done. It left me alone. But I'm a very curious guy. So this thing opened a door for me. It really opened a door for me. So at nighttime, I'd go to sleep, and I would put myself in a paralysis. I just had the ability to do it. I can go to sleep, put my body to sleep, but I'd keep my mind awake. And then once I could feel this, it's almost like this vibration, it's this numbing, warm vibration that starts in your stomach. Once I felt that, I can just shake myself out, pop out, and then I just started to explore my bedroom. And it's very different than the movies. It's just like it's not like you have a body, it's your energy, and you're floating around, and you can like zoom in and out of things very easily. You have like 360 vision. It's very different. You're not breathing, you don't have a mouth, you can't speak. So you have to learn how to navigate this new world. And then my journey changed. Oh, there's me leaving the body. Yeah. My journey changed. I would be sleeping at night, having a perfectly normal dream. And in the dream, suddenly, I'll feel something reach in my body and pull me out. Okay, that's why I say I wish I was dreaming, because I was dreaming, and then something yanked me out of my dream. And suddenly I'm out of my body, in my room, and there's beings in my room. And they just look like this. It's exactly what they look like. They're invisible. You know the Predator movies? You know when they hit that button and they turn invisible and you can like kind of see their shimmering outline? It's exactly what it looked like. So these beings would be in my room and they would forcibly just pull me out of my body and they'd shoot me up into outer space. It's quite a trip. It's like the Google Earth. You ever see that Google Earth effect where it's like you're in your house and then you're like shot up into space? It's like exactly the same. And I'm hovering above the planet and these beings are holding me. And then they point to a location on the planet and then shoot me back down and just drop me off and leave me there. And when I get down to the planet and I'm looking around, I don't recognize what I see. It's not the Earth that I know. It's just not the Earth that I know. And the first thing that they showed me looked like this. So they dropped me off in a place like exactly like this. The sky was like blood red. I've never seen the sky like that. Like something really happened to the sky. It looked like the sky was on fire almost. And everything on the earth was just destroyed. It was just burnt into cinders. And so I'm just hanging out in this desolate environment for a while. And then they pulled me underground into a bunker. So someone built a bunker of some sort. And they wanted me to see the person in the bunker, and the person was suffering. Whatever had happened, that bunker did not protect this person. He was definitely suffering. Oops, press the button. And then what happened was, after I viewed this scene, these beings would come back, grab me, go back into outer space, and then back down into my body. And then I'd wake up and go, oh my God, this is like the most intense thing I've ever experienced, horrific thing I've ever experienced. So people that have beautiful, rainbows and unicorn spiritual experiences, it's very nice. I never got that opportunity. It was very traumatic for me to have a spiritual awakening. And this started to be a common occurrence. It started to happen a lot. The next time they took me, same process, up into space, down to the planet. They dropped me off, and it was like an open-air prison. It looked very similar to this. Same sky, so it was like the same scene. And it was a prison for children. And what I saw there has haunted me my whole life, or ever since I saw it. But something really bad was going on there. And when I came back from this experience, I was literally white as a ghost. I couldn't talk to people for like a week. And I was afraid to go to sleep at night. Because if I went to sleep, I'm going to be taken into the future or something. So these gifts and these things that started to happen to me, it's not like I was sitting and meditating and wanting this to happen. It would happen if I liked it or not. It was like I was just along for the ride. So I would just pray before I go to sleep. I said, just pray, please, I don't want these abilities. Please, I don't want to go on any more trips. I don't want to see all these horrible things. please stop taking me. That was like my mantra. Please stop taking me. And this is where we came up with the term multidimensional time travel, because I wasn't physically time traveling. My physical body was laying in bed. It was my astral body, my energetic body, my consciousness that was being pulled out of me and taken on these journeys. And then when the journey was done, I was put back into my body to wake up. Okay? So I kept begging and begging it to stop, and my journey changed again. And now I was being visited by other beings. And now they started to talk to me. And the only thing they would say to me is this: before you become who you're supposed to become, you have to heal yourself. That's what these beings kept telling me. I had to heal myself. And growing up, I was very sick growing up. I had a very bad stomach problem called IBS. And basically, anything that I ate made me sick. I was so sick, so I was afraid to eat food growing up. And what made things worse was I was severely dyslexic. I couldn't read or write, and I had a terrible stutter. I couldn't speak. If I tried to open my mouth, I'd say the same word like 10 times. Okay? That was normal Jason back then. Okay? So I kept asking them, I was scared because I was definitely sick, and my father was also worried about me, so he decided to take me to see all these specialists and doctors and take every test there is. And the big reveal time when I'm sitting with the doctors, they basically told me and my father that not only is Jason healthy, he's healthier than the normal person. That's what the doctors told me. And I said, well, what about this and this and this? And they say, well, that's just stress. It's just stress. Just relax, Jay, you'll be fine. I love that answer. It's so great. You know, I'm like, I'm not stressed. You're stressed. You know. So obviously, the medical establishment was not my answer. I did not get an answer from them. So who am I going to talk to? I'm going to talk to these beings that are telling me I have to heal, right? So they started to talk to me. Oh, this is a picture of me in 2005. Right there, I'm 160 pounds. This is not even my worst. I was at 140 once. I'm 200 pounds right now. 200 pounds. Okay? My nickname in high school was Jack Skeleton. Okay? I'm going to put a better picture up of me. So I was definitely not well. And I think that's also why this other world opened up to me, because I was almost out of this world. It was like I was dying, and this world started to open up to me, and I started to experience that other side, and they were telling me I had to heal myself. And they started to teach me. They first started to teach me about the food and the water, EMF, and Qigong. They started to tell me that, and by the way, I'm not a conspiracy person. I thought the world was perfect when I started this, right? They started to tell me that there's chemicals in the food that's altering our genetics, and that there's chemicals in our water that are hurting us, and it's retarding our growth spiritually. They were saying that food and water is good for nutrition, but that's not the point of food and water. The point of food and water is to receive the energetic light from this food. The actual source of energy comes from our sun. Our sun, charges this food up with life force energy, and you eat this food and water, and it builds your energetic structures. Okay, so that's lost from our food and water supply right now. They're also saying that from the farm to your table, every place that food goes, every person that handles the food, they put their energetic imprints in that food and water. And then you go and eat that food, and you take on all that illness and sick energy from every person and place that this stuff goes to. So they said, it's kind of like praying. You have to go into the matrix of the food or water, feel the energetic structure, which feels like a magnetic field, and then take it out. Pull that thing out of the food, call on these higher energies, place them in the food and water, build that energy source in the food and water, and then consume it. And I love what they said. They said, it's kind of what you call praying, you know? You know? So I said, okay, I'm going to start doing this to my food and water. And then they were teaching me about EMFs. This is more than 15 years ago. This is like a long time ago. This was before YouTube, all right? So I couldn't really go and research EMF stuff. There wasn't much out there at that time. And they were teaching me that there's invisible energies being sent all around us that are destroying the bonds in our cells, that are keeping our brains at a certain vibrational matrix, and it's holding us in these patterns. And they took me on many journeys and showed me these lines of transmission that are being sent to us. So I became a crazy person, by the way. When I learned about this stuff, I became like a preacher. I'd go out with all my high school friends. I'm like, do you know they're sending energy into your brain? You know, like, are you aware of what you're actually eating? Like, I just became this crazy person, and all my friends kind of like just started to back away from me. You know, I became that guy, you know? And I kept asking and asking, well, what can I do? What can I do to heal myself? What can I do to protect myself? And they said, you need to learn Qigong. I mean, that's huge. They said, I have to learn Qigong. And I'm going to take their advice because no one else is giving me the advice. So I started to practice a Qigong called Qilao, Qigong. It's like you pull energy in, you push energy out. I started with that. And I practiced it religiously for about a year. I didn't feel a thing. I didn't feel anything. I was like completely numb. Like, I would go to sleep and have crazy experiences, but when I'm awake, I'm like so numb, nothing comes to me at all. It took a year of practice before I could put my hands together and go, I can actually feel something there, right? Which was amazing, and then it spread. That's the most amazing thing about this energy stuff, is that once you start to feel it, it spreads. So I started to get sensitivity coming through my arms. I could feel energy. Then I started to get sensitivity through my body. And then I started to get sensitivity into my environment. Okay, that's a trip. But it's almost like you're awakening a part of yourself that's been asleep your whole life. That's what it's like. It's like another sense that your body has. And I became like an acupuncture doll. I could literally feel the lines of energy and the points. That became my normal life. I can feel that every day. And if I would eat a food that wasn't good for me, suddenly I'd have points on my body like screaming in pain. And I'm like, okay, I can't eat that. You know, so the Qigong, and what they were saying about Qigong is that you're starting to strengthen and rebuild your energetic structures, because the stronger you are energetically, the less impact the food and the water and the EMFs will have on you. So you have to become stronger than that. So that was the point of Qigong. So my new life became Qigong, cleansing, fasting. I got into plants and essential oils, crystals and stones, probably my favorite thing. And I started to take energy medicine school, shamanism, and I learned dowsing. So I got yanked out of my really cool job at a recording studio to do this full time. And it became my life. And then my journey changed again. I'm just going to go through another slide here. Oops. I was at a health show in 2007, and I'm walking down the aisles. This is a couple years after I started Qigong, so I was very sensitive to energy. And I came by a booth that had a picture. It was actually the pharaoh or the statue in the middle. And at the booth, they circled this pharaoh's hand, and it said, "What is he holding?" And there was a moment where it's like I had tunnel vision. It's like I just zoomed in right to that. I'm like, I've seen these statues my whole life. Never did I see that they were holding something in their hands. And the gentleman there had these rods, and he just said, here, hold them, try them out. And I grabbed them, and right when I grabbed these rods, I felt, it was almost like a fire was lit in my stomach. Instantly, it was like a charging fire in my stomach. And I know that feeling because that's what I feel after like a half an hour of Qigong. I could feel that. But I just grabbed it, and it's there. I'm like, okay, this is something. There's something to this. So I went home, and I started to practice this stuff. And I didn't really do anything special. I just held them. I kind of held them before my Qigong or after my Qigong. And suddenly, I started to experience pain. So I'd hold these things, and then I'd get severe pain in my body. And I knew in Qigong that they say pain is the releasing of energy. And just continue doing that. So as I would hold these rods, I'd feel pain, and then I would move the rods around because I could feel energy flow. So I'd just kind of play with the energy until I hit the pain. And when I hit the pain, it hurt. And then right when I hit the pain, I would stand and hold the posture and not move. And I'd feel the energy build up behind the pain, and it would literally come out of the body like this, and then it falls to the floor, and then there's no more pain. And I'm like, okay, this is amazing. This is amazing stuff. So every day I'd wake up with more pain. And then I have to figure out, how to get it out of my body. So healing is not nice. It's painful. There's a lot of suffering that goes along with healing. It's not easy to do. But for me, it's like I had to do it, or else I'd walk the whole day with the pain. And I could work it out in a couple minutes doing this. And my journey changed again. This time when I'd go to sleep at night, I'd be taken out of my body, and I'd go back to Egypt. I'd go back to Egypt, and I'd be standing in a temple, and there would be a person, honestly, just like the guy in the middle. Just like the guy in the middle. He'd just be standing there in front of me, and he'd be standing in a posture. And all I did was stand in front of him and copy what he was doing. So I would stand in front of him and do exactly what he's doing. And when I would do that, something opened up over my head, and all this, it feels like a waterfall of solar energy. It's like that's exactly what it feels like. It's like a waterfall of energy, and it goes through your whole body. It's like a vibration. It's very warm. And I would even wake up in my bed from these experiences, like in that same posture, shaking in my bed. And once I broke the posture, the energy shut off. And I said, oh my God, this is like the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. So they taught me all these postures, and they showed me how to do it. And I started to practice it, and my life changed. My life changed. It's like it rewires your brain. I don't know what it just rewires everything about you, because I stopped stuttering. I was no longer dyslexic. I could read like a book a day. And I could eat food again. So all the things that made old Jason just fell away once I started to practice this. I mean, think about it. I'm talking in front of all of you here. I'm not stuttering. My biggest nightmare in life was talking to one person, because I couldn't say what I wanted to say. All right, so this rewired everything about me. And then I released a book about it called The Egyptian Postures of Power. And I put this out, I don't remember I think this was around 2007 I put this out. And it's sold over 10,000 copies, and it's basically on every place on this planet. And I actually travel the world teaching this everywhere. And there's so many people that use this now with so many testimonials. So it's amazing that something that's given from spirit or given from past life can be translated into this physical world. And this is the story that I was told. They told me that these postures were brought to Earth from a star nation called the Pleiades and given to our early ancestors during the time of Atlantis. And They were brought here when the world was starting to go out of balance, leading to worldwide catastrophes. Their purpose was to change the vibrational nature of mankind and the environment by moving them into higher fields of consciousness. So they thought that if they could change the energetic structure of mankind, they could change the future of mankind. That was the point of doing these postures. And I've been thinking about this a lot. Why do all these ancient cultures have a thing for the Pleiades? It makes no sense. It makes no sense why every culture, even the Bible, mentions the Pleiades so many times. What is it about this star system that's so important? I mean, to find Pleiades, has anybody seen and looked for Pleiades? Does anybody know how to do that? Okay, so you know you have to find the Orion's belt and look up from the direction of Orion's belt through Aldebaran, and then you get to the Pleiades. And if you really look at the Pleiades, it just looks like a small star cluster that's blurry. It's insignificant, you know? Why are all these cultures talking about this insignificant thing that's blurry, way off in the distance of Orion, behind Taurus? So it'd be behind Taurus's, it doesn't make any sense. But if you talk to native elders, and lucky for me, I grew up in Canada, and we have a very strong connection to these native elders, they'll tell you that they came from the stars. And all these ancient cultures say the same thing. They came from the stars. Well, where did you come from? Well, we came from the Pleiades. You know, there's temples set up all over the planet that are set up in the actual shape of the Pleiades star system. Obviously, it's important. Obviously, they're trying to preserve some type of history or tradition of the Pleiades. And I've heard somebody else saying that actually there was 2 lines of ancestry of the human race. One came from Pleiades and one came from Orion. And, you know, they would mix with each other. So our physical ancestry, according to a lot of these teachers, is a mix of beings from Orion and Pleiades. And that's why we have this very, very strong connection to them. And the story that I was told about Atlantis, I've never heard this story told by anybody else, and it's very weird, so you're going to hear my story of Atlantis, okay? And this came from them. It didn't come from a book. That's why it's weird. They said that the original Atlanteans traveled here through a portal through the Atlantic Ocean. And they said these beings came from a planet that was, it was more of a water world. It was more water-based, and they themselves had more water content in their bodies. So look at the first images of a god. They show them, this is Enki, and they say he's the one that came from the waters. That's what he's known as. So he's known as the god of the waters. And so he's always depicted as having these waves of water around him and sometimes as a fish. And the story they told me is that these original Atlanteans lived underwater. They lived underwater. They can live underwater. And that they would occasionally come out of the water and teach the beings that were here. So they'd come onto land sometimes and teach them. And eventually, they got together and formed Atlantis. And so you have this very old tradition of these fish gods coming out of the water. And you could see these crazy hats they're wearing. They're wearing fish heads. I mean, we still have this today. I don't know if you realize it. So there's, you know, yeah, it's so obvious if you know these stories. And eventually, they interbred so much into the human race that the original Atlantean line was lost. And they would have these initiations of returning to the water. So they would learn how to go under the water and try to activate their DNA so they could sustain themselves underwater. So you get all these stories of mermaids and all these creatures. This is like the original story of the original Atlanteans that came here. And it's very interesting that they told me that they didn't come here in a ship. They didn't come here in a UFO. They traveled through portals of time and space. And the portals, they told me there's portals all over your planet that these beings could come through. And you find these sites all over the world. There's sites all over the world that people say, these are the doorways of the gods. This is where the ancestors came from. So I really became the archetype of Chiron, which is the wounded healer. So for me to find myself and my journey to connect to my source, I had to heal myself. And by healing myself, I became the healer. And this is a very old archetype of Chiron, which is the shaman. Do you know how they choose shamans in the forest? How they choose shamans in tribes? What they do is, if a child gets very sick and gets close to death and survives, he becomes the shaman. Because he's been to death and back, so he has a healing ability about him, so let's train him into becoming the shaman. So as the sick people that healed themselves, they became the medicine people. Okay, so now things get crazy. So I'm sleeping in bed, and I hear a voice. It says to me, "Do you want to know your past lives?" What do you think my answer was? No, get out of here. That was my real answer. And then I just, I calm my heart down, because it's these beings, like, that's how they wake you up at night. They just say it right in your mind. So you wake up shocked. And then I slowly open my eyes, and this is what it looked like. It was standing in my room. It was like a cloaked being, the only way I could describe it is like, it looks like a Jedi Master, but you can't see their face. Can't see their face. And it just said to me, "Do you want to know?" And then I said, "Okay, yes, I want to know." So then it started to tell me all these things and take me on journeys and show me. And then it told me a story which I've never heard before. And I'm going to tell you this story word for word, okay? This is what this thing said to me. Eons and eons before time began, many lands, many universes were drawn together by the spider web. This spider web was a way for many civilizations, many universes to connect and communicate with one another. And unfortunately, those who would discover the connection and want to take control of different worlds themselves have severed these threads deliberately. The time has come when the great beings of light, masters and ancestors, will be incarnated. These are the hybrids of mankind, those whose job it is to raise the vibrational level, and those to connect between the worlds. That's pretty profound. That's pretty profound. So obviously I ask, well, who severed the cords? And I say this only because we're at a UFO conference, and this is nothing new to you. They literally said to me the reptilians did it. I didn't know who the reptilians were until they said the reptilians did it. I'm like, oh my God, okay. And this is what it looks like. It's just this great spider web that you can leave your body and you can travel anywhere through time, space, dimension, and communicate with your star families. What if you knew, and this pissed me off a lot actually, what if you knew that when you go to sleep at night, you can just leave your body and go visit your friends and relatives in different time and space? That's what part of dreaming is. But we've been severed from that. We've been cut off from that ability. And we see this all over the world. And, the Tawa and the Hopi have a legend of Spider Woman who was sent to Earth by the great Sun Spirit to lead the pre-humans out of darkness and into another world. So in that legend, in that Hopi legend, it actually says that the human race was taken out of a dark world and brought here through this spider's web. So we didn't come here through ships, we came here through dimensional portals. That's what that's saying. In another creation myth, the Yoruba people of Nigeria and Benin, the gods who lived in the sky would come down and play by descending spider webs that draped from the skies like lacy bridges. The Moray of New Zealand tell the story of Tawaki, in which his grandmother teaches him the only way to reach the upper world is by climbing the spider's web that hangs from the sky. And the story is the same in Africa, where the Anasazi, the spider god, learned how to climb the great spider web to the sky to connect heaven and earth. So you have this legend all over the world of how do you travel, how do you go? It's through something called the spider's web. Has anybody heard that here? Okay, a couple people. So this is kind of new, right? Okay. Can I show you what it looks like? Okay. So I'll go to sleep at night, and I'll leave my body, and then a portal will open up in my bedroom. That's exactly what it looks like. It's about 3 feet like this. And then it's like a magnetic pull. I'll be pulled through the portal. And going through a portal, it's a very interesting experience. It looks like, you know, the static white noise on the TV screens? It's the opposite of that. It's like black noise. It looks like black pixels. And it sounds like white noise, like it sounds like wind going through your ears. And you feel like you're being transported, I don't even know how far, like it's like a long distance. You just feel like you're pulled so far. And then my consciousness would wake up in bed. And then I'm like, okay, I know I just went somewhere, but I have no conscious memory of it. And then I leave my body at night again. Another portal will open up somewhere else in the room, same thing, go through it, and then I wake up in bed. And again, I start getting really pissed off. I know I'm going somewhere, I know I'm traveling somewhere, but I have no memory or connection of that consciousness. And so I kept asking, I really want to know what's on the other side of that portal. And one night I got my wish. So I leave my body, I go through this portal, and suddenly I'm in outer space. I see the stars. And this being is holding me behind, just holding me, like guiding me. And we're in telepathic communication. And I see a star system we're flying to, and I say, where are we going? And he said, Pegasus. So I'm assuming we went to the Pegasus constellation. And we came up to a planet which was like an ice world. And the equator area was green, but everything else was ice. And I went down, like the Google Earth thing, into a building and then into a body of a small child. And I woke up as a child on another world. Okay? And I was so excited. You don't know how excited I was. I was in some school. It was a school, and it looked human. Everybody was human. And I'm like in a classroom, but I'm this little kid, and I'm turning around and asking everybody. I'm interrupting the whole class, by the way. Who am I? Where am I? What's my name? Tell me this, tell me that. And everybody's just looking at me, and I go, okay, screw you guys. I got to find the library. So I run out of the classroom, and I'm going down hallways, and I'm trying to find a place where I could find books. And I guess I was causing too much of a ruckus because I get pulled back out, back through the portals, and put back in my body. and then it dawned on me that that little child was me, living a simultaneous life. We live parallel worlds, parallel dimensions, parallel places. There's many aspects of our consciousness that is all over the place, all right? And we have these divisions put in place so we don't contaminate each other's lives. Could you imagine having like 1 billion other lives in your brain? It's not fun. So thank God we have these separations and protections. But that's a really great teaching. So let me tell you about levels of experience. This is what I experience. Everybody tells me, could I teach them how to do this? My answer to them is no, because you're just along for the ride. I had no control over this. I was taken. I didn't say I want to go to Egypt and then I'm in Egypt. It's I want to go to sleep and have a normal dream and then I'm transported somewhere else. So there was no control. I was just taken for a ride. And then the next level of experience is you're an observer. So I can go to another world and I could be like a spirit and I could observe this world or timeline, but I can't interact. I can't do anything. I can just watch what's going on and observe. The next thing is a participant, which now my energy integrates with another being and I can feel through them. I'm along for their ride, so I can be like watching through the back of their eyes. And then the next level is total control. So I can go to another world like I did with that child, and I took that child out of its body and it was Jason in there. I had full control. It was Jason in another body. So those are levels of control in these type of situations. And that takes you to past lives, parallel worlds, other dimensions, time travel, communication, and learning. I'm just going to switch this really fast here. The Egyptians said that you don't have one body, you actually have 7 bodies. 7 unique entities that make up who you are. And I don't want to get into this because this is a huge teaching just by itself, but I just want to focus on the shadow, which they believed is the soul, and the Ba, which is the personality of the soul. So they said there are 2 separate entities that make up who you are. And then I saw a picture. This is only a couple weeks for me, so this is blowing my mind right now. That's why I want to share it with you. I found this picture. It's the shadow at nighttime leaving your body and your astral body, which is the Ba, and traveling through dimensional portals. This is exactly what I experience. So when I saw this, it blew my mind that this is what was normal knowledge back then. They talked about this. They made paintings about this thing. And I don't know anything about this Egypt stuff. All I know is that's exactly what has been happening to me. So that's crazy. That's crazy. So let's give a definition of dimensions. Dimensions are levels of awareness in different vibratory rates. Each vibratory nature has a unique body, vessel, or sense, which allows you to navigate that reality. So, for example, if a being walks into the room, I can feel them, but I can't see them with my physical eyes. If I stick my astral body out or use the third eye, suddenly they're standing right in front of me. All right, so you're using another sense, you're using another body that is in that dimensional space to experience that dimensional space. So you have many bodies. We just haven't activated these many bodies of experience. And as we live on this earth, we're living with many different dimensions. We're living with the earth elements and nature spirits. We have a whole inner world. We have like a universe within us. It's a very primal world. You need to go there. It's amazing. It looks like that. And then you have the visionary worlds, which is the psychic and channeling, auras. And then you have the astral world, which is like the portal or the gateway to time and space dimensions, entities, and portals. And then you have something called the void or cosmic ocean. Has anybody been to the void or cosmic ocean? Okay, it's nothing. It's basically unconsciousness, darkness, but it's the most amazing place to be. It's so amazing to be there. For me, it's like being everything at once is going to the void. It's an amazing experience. And then we have levels of contact. So we're at contact in the desert, so I'm going to tell you how contact works. Or to me, how contact works. You have the physical contact, which, a lot of people are saying they're physically being taken. I don't really want to spend any time on that because I personally have never been physically taken anywhere. Never. Never. But the best way for contact is through the mind, dreams, telepathy, from voice, channeling, and visions. Has anybody had information come to them in a dream? Right. Do you think some being in another world or dimension is going to fly over in a spaceship and tell you a message? It's a lot of gas money, right? So I wouldn't. But what they can do is tune into you, and they could take over your dreams. They could take over your mind, and they can give you that download and information, and then you wake up knowing that knowledge. That's the easiest and best way for contact, which is happening all over the world all the time. So are you being contacted? Yes, but we believe the dreams are just imaginary things. They're not. It's a place for contact. In the native traditions, the dream world is the gateway of the spirit world. That's what dreams are. It's your gateway into other worlds and dimensions. Okay, astral worlds, entities, and beings. And celestial family. Has anybody been in the astral world? Okay, it's not a friendly place. It's not a fun experience. There are many things in there that don't like you. Okay, it's not friendly over there. So you leave your body and you're like attacked. You'll have an entity come with you back to your body. You'll have energy pulled from you and sucked. It's not a good place to be. It's like you get into the astral world and you get in there kicking and fighting. So we have to learn how to strengthen ourselves, because these things can only attach to us if we're open to that attachment. So we have to learn how to heal ourselves and fix our energetic structure so we actually bypass those entities. And there's something that nobody really talks about that I have to talk about here. It's this thing called the matrix of other realities. And it's another way of contact. You're lying in bed and sleeping, and let's say a being wants to talk to you, they'll create a reality for you. So think of this room as a reality. So you'll be pulled out of a dream, and you'll be placed in this space. And it's like the Matrix. You have a physical body, you're you. Everything feels real. It's like you're really there. And then you'll have the entity walk in, have a conversation with you. When that conversation is done, the reality is released, and you wake up in your bed. Okay? I'm telling you, it's so real, you believe you're there physically. That's how real it is. So a lot of people that get abducted, they say, I was taken on this thing. I went to this underground base. I went to this location. But if there was a video camera in their bedroom, their body is still sleeping in bed. So they could say, oh, you're nuts. See, there's the proof. You didn't go anywhere. Your body is right there. They hijack your mind, and they set up this reality, and you can go and have these conversations. Okay, so we have to be very aware of this. Very aware of this. And I'll show you some characters that I've had personal contact with. And these are the only ones that people would know. I would say there's about 200 more that even I don't know. So these are the characters that we're aware of mostly. And this mantis thing is huge. When it comes into my bedroom, it's got to go through the door like this. And they have no sense of what will scare you, because usually by the time you open your eyes, their face is right here. So it's a very strange experience. So you wake up and you're just so startled to have this face right there. And my poor cat. my cat got in the way of me swinging a pillow at it. So but for some reason, this thing would come to me, and it would try to communicate with me, but it was speaking its language. And I couldn't understand it. So I would just keep saying to it, please speak English to me. I don't understand you. And it just gave me a weird look, and then, went back out my door and left. And that happened I don't know why they would do that. So that one I don't understand. But my friend Nora had an experience with me in Lake Titicaca with that being. And she was having trouble breathing at night because there's low oxygen. And she was freaking out like she was going to die. And out of the shadows, this thing came right into the room and blew in her mouth. And as it blew in her mouth, she felt her body go like this. And she asked, "Who are you? What's your name?" She has a translator, I don't. Because she got an answer, and it said, they call us the Isles, which are elevating your lineages. That's what they call themselves. And okay, what is your purpose here? We watch over mankind, and as they reach levels of transition, we are there to help them over the bumps of the transitions. So they watch over and they help us go through dimensional things. And the people that have had mantis experiences, they just feel absolute overwhelming love from this entity. So many people have past lives as a mantis being. And then the next is a little gray. I've never in my life had a gray experience until last year. It was so weird. I was in Japan at the time. Obviously, it happened in Japan. And I'm sleeping, and there's something in my room, and I wake up, and this is standing in the corner of my room, clear as day. And I'm excited because it's the first gray I've seen. And it sends a telepathic message in my brain, and you know what it says to me? I am an old, short man. That was said to me. And I said, no, you're not, you're a gray alien. And then it left. And then I learned that that's an actual common experience. People wake up and they think they see an old man in their room. And now I'm thinking, I'm like, this thing tried to Jedi mind trick me. But it couldn't. I caught him, and it left. That being that looks kind of pink, that is so accurate to what I've seen. It's so accurate. It's the only accurate thing up on this wall. Only accurate thing. For some reason, this being was calling out to me for help many times. So at nighttime, I'd feel this pulling, like something is calling me. I'd leave my body and I'd go to this place. And this being is very tall being. Looks just like that. It's almost like pink skin. It's like a salmony pink skin. It's weathered. It's a weathered skin. And it calls me out to the desert. It's living in a cave. And it's extremely scared because it's being hunted. I'm like, who's hunting you? And it showed me humans. So this thing was very scared. It was calling out for help. And I kept going to see if I could help this thing. But that's literally exactly, close to what it looked like. And then we get to, I told you about the shadow, the reptilians. I actually had one of those matrix reality things set up with me and the reptilians, where I was brought into a room like this. And then the reptilians walked in, and one was like the guy in the middle there. He was a tall humanoid, looked very similar to that actually, but like bigger jaw, like the jaw was like massive, big guy. And beside him, there was like two other reptilians that looked more dinosaur-like. They almost looked like they were Godzilla. They had tails. And so it was almost like the muscle and the leader. And they pulled me into that matrix reality, and I didn't feel any fear. I was not scared at all. And I just asked them, who are you? And they said, we go by many names. We go by dinoids, raptoids, saurians, reptilians. And he went on like 30 or 40 names. He didn't stop. Like, okay, you have lots of names. You're known by lots of names. And I said, where do you come from? And they said, they come from Sagittarius. That's what they said to me. And I said, well, why are you here? Why am I pulled with you into this matrix reality? And they said, we wanted to give you information about Akhenaten. And I was actually researching Akhenaten at the time. So they told me a lot of stuff. And I said, thank you. And then that was it. I didn't feel any harm or anything like that. For me, it was a positive experience. Oh, I forgot to say, but I asked them, aren't you the bad guys? I did. I said, aren't you the bad guys? And they looked at me and they said, we have many unenlightened brothers. And they're very warlike in nature. I said, okay. So there's a polarity. We live in a polarity universe. When I was writing Forbidden Knowledge, I was visited a lot by the unfriendly ones. And the only way I could describe them is bone chilling. Okay? When they walk into a room, I swear to you, it feels like cold air goes through your bones. Like the actual word bone chilling, that's exactly what it feels like when they enter the room. And their voice is very like low and raspy. It's like I cannot do an impression of what a reptilian voice is. It's like very low and very raspy. It's very scary voice. And I won't say what radio show it was, but there's a radio show that I went on, and I could hear them talking in the background over the radio show. I could hear this in my head, not on the actual radio show. And it's almost like as I was doing this work, they were monitoring me, and I can hear the conversations they're having with each other. And I remember as a child hearing the same conversations outside my bedroom. So these things monitor us as we grow up. And these Jedi-looking things, I've seen some very tall, and I swear to you, I've seen them this big. They're like this big. And the ones that are this big, you can't keep up with them. They are fast runners. And I wish there was a Hollywood producer here in visual effects, because it's like I tried to follow one of these guys, and it's like they'll run through the bedroom and a little portal will open up and they'll go through that portal. They're in another place. And then 2 feet in front of them, another portal opens up. They're in another place, and another, and another, and another. It's like you're traveling through 100 places in the span of like a couple seconds. And you can visually see all these worlds that they're just shooting through. They're fast. They are fast. And then you have beings, which I call multidimensional beings, which I see a lot of them. And sometimes when I look down at my hands, that's exactly what it looks like. It just looks like light going through space. That's what it looks like. And I just want to mention something quickly here. I had this is also part of Contact. I had an intimate conversation with a record keeper from Canada, a very powerful medicine man. And we were talking about contact and aliens and spaceships, and he was like laughing. He was laughing at the ideas. And so I say, okay, you're holding something back, tell me. He said, there was a time in our history that our ancestors were so advanced that they conquered the whole planet. They had technology that's far superior than what we had today. They even had spaceships back then, and they would go off-world. So this is what the shaman's telling me, and this guy doesn't have the internet. And he said, in times of history, the ancestors that decided to leave the planet would actually come back to the planet to visit the ancestors or the future generations. And they would give the future generations a choice. Either, if they want to continue their technological path, come with them to the stars, because they've already done it, or you're destroying the planet with your technology, get rid of it all, because you're going to destroy the planet, and go back into the woods and live a spiritual life. So they said the people that left the cities to go with these star brother ancestors, they said, take red paint on your hands and put it on the wall so that future generations know that the ancestors took you to the stars. So all over the world, you have red handprints in places. You have entire cities around the planet that overnight is just gone. It's like they were taken, and you find these handprints. Okay? So it's not aliens taking them, it's the actual ancestors that got really advanced, and they come periodically to see if their descendants want to come with them to the stars. That blew my mind, coming from this old medicine man. All right? Okay. This is probably the most important thing I'll talk about tonight. This is the most important thing. I was sitting with a very powerful dowser and medicine man, and very gifted and psychic, and he's staring at me at this party. So he finally walks up to me, and this is what he says to me. What if I told you the voice in your head is not yours? I said, okay. He goes, what if I told you the visions you see, they're not yours? I said, okay. He goes, you know those thoughts at night that you go to sleep and your mind is just running wild? He goes, what if I told you those are not your thoughts? And I'm like, of course they're my thoughts. They're in my head in my own voice. He said, no. This is what I want you to do. Every time a thought pops into your mind, this is what he said to me. He said, pull your pendulum out and say, you are not my thought forms, please leave now. That's what he told me. That's what he said for me to do. And I trust this guy. This guy was an awesome, awesome guy. So I did it. So every time a random thought would pop in my head, I'd say, you are not my thoughts, please leave now, like forcefully. That became my mantra. Anytime a vision would come in my mind, I'd say, you are not my thoughts, please leave now. And then I did that for a couple months, and suddenly it felt like something in my brain clicked. It felt like something in the middle of my brain like flipped over, and there was a clicking sound. It was very strange. And once that click happened, I heard silence. It was like my mind was blank and empty. It was the most amazing feeling to feel that in my mind. And it stayed like that. So one night, I'm having a normal dream, and in my dream, I hear a voice in my dream, and it's my voice. Okay, so has anybody experienced telepathy? It's in most of the time it's in your own voice. They speak in your own voice. So in my own voice in my mind in the dream, it says, Jason, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're dying of cancer and you have less than a year to live. And in my dream, I get very sad, I go, oh no, like, I'm dying. How am I going to tell my family and my friends? And what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Like, I start going into that thought process. And then it dawned on me, wait a second, my thoughts are not mine. And when I said that, I popped out of my body. And when I came out of my body, there was a being laying in bed with me, speaking in the back of my head. And I was so, again, it's a pattern with me. I'm so angry. I grabbed this thing by the arm. And it's almost like, oh shit, I'm caught. It was freaking out. Like I was holding this thing. I wouldn't let go of it. And I said, who are you? Tell me who you are. And it just said gibberish. It was like just gibberish. And I said, I don't know why I said it. I said, are you a being of light? And it stopped. It just calmed right down. And very clearly it said, no, I am not. I said, okay, you're never allowed to influence or manipulate me again. Get out of here. And it left. Do you want to know what that thing looked like? An angel. It was gorgeous. It was like shimmering, beautiful light. Okay? And the first thought on my mind was, if someone had a spiritual experience and would come in contact with this being, they'd probably get on their knees and pray to it. Second thing that scared me was if I would have believed what it said, would I have died of cancer that year? Was it subliminally programming me to develop and manifest things in the physical world at that subconscious level? Okay? This stuff is dangerous, all right? So we have to take control over our minds and our thoughts. This happened to me in Japan too. And I was having this crazy dream, and I'm like, this is not my dream. I was eating soba noodles. I don't know if you know soba noodles. And it was very salty, and I felt so sick. I had this pounding headache, and I just went to sleep. And when I went to sleep, I was so sick, and I went to sleep, and I had this crazy dream that is so out of my character that I knew it wasn't my dream. And I pop out of my head, literally, I stick my astral head out of my physical head, and it looked like that. I swear to you, it looked like that, but it wasn't that size. It was about this size. And there was two of those suckers. One was digging right into my back, and one was holding my head like this, putting its thought into my head. And I tried to fight them, and they have sharp nails. They were scratching me up. So I couldn't fight them. And then I just remembered an ancient mantra that I learned, and I said the mantra, and suddenly, poof, they were gone. We have a lot of power in that world, by the way. Way more power than anything they have. But we have to know that power, okay? So we have to know that we could easily be manipulated. Easily be manipulated. So we have to really remember something. Our energy, who we are, actually feeds other dimensions. Just like how we take energy from the lower worlds of the plants and the animals and the minerals, we feed other beings through our emotions, our thought forms. It's amazing. So if we think a certain way, we actually attract certain beings that love that energy, and they'll attach to you, and you're an amazing buffet, by the way. So we have to be responsible for our own energies. We have to learn about our energies, because what if I told you that everything you are is in your energetic field? Everything. And every step you take on the earth, you're putting that program of who you are in that earth. So if I shake someone's hand, I can get everything from them, their entire history, just by shaking their hand, because we're exchanging information at some level. What if you're carrying hate and anger and lower consciousness fields? Every step you take on the earth, you plant that seed. And then every person that walks over that seed takes that energy. You're spreading a disease. You're really spreading an energetic disease. So we have to learn how to take responsibility of our own energy, clean out all this stuff, so that as we step on the earth, we're cleaning all that garbage away. That's what we have to learn how to do. We have to clean the garbage, not put more planting seeds of terrible things. Oops. I'm going to try to run through this fast because I want people to ask me questions. So there's a thing going on now called the savior mentality or instant ascension. This is the exact opposite teaching of what I've been told. It's the exact opposite. What I've been told on the other side is we are 100% responsible for our own energy. 100%. And this is what they say, when I'm on the other side, if I call out to a higher being, I give my power away. When I was in trouble, and I went through years of trouble, when I was in trouble in the astral world, if I called out to higher beings, my experience got worse, not better. Because that's not the real teaching. The teaching is I had to be sovereign. I had to hold my own energy and take control of the situation. And once I learned that I had that power within me, my whole reality changed. At first, I was scared of these things. Now these things are very scared of me. So this is what I've been told on the other side. I said, aren't you going to intervene? Aren't you going to come here and intervene and save us? And they look at me and they say, the enlightened beings, higher dimensional beings, multidimensional beings, have been incarnating on this planet since the beginning to help shift the mass mind to guide Earth. So we are the higher beings. We are the multidimensional beings. We incarnate here, and being physical, we can shift our timelines. That is the greatest conspiracy of all, because you're told that you're nothing. You're separate. You have no power, which is the complete opposite of what we are. And, in our generation, we call these children star seeds, indigos, crystals, and rainbows. So here's my definition of ascension. Ascension is the expansion of our awareness outside our third dimensional reality. This awakens us into multidimensional awareness. Our power lies in our strength, control, and sovereignty over our own energy. We need to become responsible for our own energy, which means taking back our minds, our emotions, our spirit, and our body. And that is the only path I know to freedom. It's the only path that I've been showed. Okay, so awakening from the matrix is the process of reclaiming your power and taking control over your own reality. So they place a lot of real information in movies and TV, real information. Sometimes I watch a movie and go, I can't believe they put that in there because I didn't know anybody else knew that. It just blows my mind. And I don't know if you've been watching Netflix. Okay. Somebody showed me the show, The OA. That show blew my mind because it's exactly what happened to me. I thought I was being tapped. Did they take my story from me? I died, and they taught me postures to heal myself, and then they taught me another system to release my energies so I can travel to other dimensions. And that's what they talked about in the OA. Like, how did they know that? Unless there's many other people that know this information. Stranger Things, I think I watched that in one day. I couldn't stop. Because they open up dimensional portals, and yes, things can manifest in our world from other places. And the medicine men and the natives, they know this all the time. There's orbs of light coming out of the ground at night. There's little people, there's big people, there's light elementals. There's all these things that come in and out and pop in and out of our dimensions all the time. Like that is, when I saw that show, I'm like, that thing actually happened. That's a documentary. And then Sense8. Has anybody seen Sense8? If you haven't seen this show, you have to see this show. It talks about the new humans. And I've experienced that in my life. I've experienced that. So people are getting real information into our consciousness. There is like, you want to talk about disclosure, this is a multi-dimensional exposure through our media. And obviously Dr. Strange was pretty cool. But so tools of awakening, like we said, is meditation, qigong, essential oils, and crystals. I'm a very, very fortunate person. I'm a very fortunate person because I live next to the Auralite 23 mine, which is a 2 billion-year-old amethyst that was hit by a meteorite. So 23 very rare metals are now in this crystal. And that's me with Howard, the mine owner, washing some stones. And I have to tell you something. When I first was introduced to this, I took the stone and I went home with it and meditated with it in my hand. And I fell asleep with this crystal in my hand. And it took me to another dimension. And I want to tell you what it showed me. I was in space and I saw this rope. And this rope was covered in clay. And I'm just watching this rope in space covered in clay. And then suddenly the rope went like this. It just very quickly went like this, and all this clay exploded off. And I saw this, it looked like shimmering white light rope in space. And when it shattered, it felt like my whole body shattered, and I jumped out of bed. And I'm like, oh my God, what just happened? And I hear a voice in my mind, telepathically, it said, be still, child, we're activating dormant DNA. Just holding this crystal. So I'm like, okay, this crystal's pretty amazing. I'm gonna keep using this. And I remember when I was working on my book, Forbidden Knowledge, Revelations of a Multidimensional Time Traveler, I didn't know what the cover was gonna be of the book. So I took this crystal and I'm meditating at night and I'm thinking, I need to know what to do for this cover of the book. And suddenly, as I fell asleep, I was transported and I see this being standing in space, holding this, I don't know, it's like a time travel orb. I don't know what this is. And it's just standing there in space, holding this and looking at me. And I swear, when I woke up, I ran right down to the computer and I tried to get it exactly what I saw. And this is like exactly what I saw from holding this crystal. The pyramid I didn't see. I didn't see Akhenaten or the earth. I just saw the being holding the thing in space. But like these crystals, or just crystals in general, the mineral world, they're like what would I call them? Interdimensional access points. So when you hold a crystal, you're changing a frequency, and now these dimensional energies can come through the crystal and flow through you, and you're going to get these messages, healings, awareness, whatever it comes to you. Yeah, I love crystals. Okay, I'm just going to quickly say this. Many people have a false understanding of what a third eye is. A third eye is a physical organ in the middle of your head. And when I calm myself and close my eyes, the third eye opens and I'll tell you exactly what it looks like. It looks like the aurora borealis in your room looking at the ceiling. That's what it looks like. And then if you look down at your body, you can see the same thing. You see light going through your body. And that's all I've ever been able to see with the third eye is just light. It's a spiritual organ of light. And in ancient Egypt, what they would do is they'd put you in a sarcophagus as an initiation and cut off all light until you saw your inner light, which means you had to activate your third eye to see the light come out of your body, because you will illuminate the sarcophagus. The light will come from your body and you'll illuminate the sarcophagus. That was the original term for the Illuminati, by the way. The illumined ones, the illuminated ones. Okay, because they can see their own light. That's why they show the eye, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this. The story of Osiris. The story of Osiris is he was cut up into 14 pieces, spread around the world, and then Isis and Nephesis gathered the pieces, put them back together, and resurrected him into life. This is the story of all of us, okay? Our energies have been torn into many pieces. And by healing, we reconnect our body, our energetic bodies, and awaken them, and then we are resurrected in life. This has nothing to do with death. This has to do with awakening your higher consciousness while you're living. Okay, very important point. A lot of things that we're being taught is actually the opposite of their meaning, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that. Okay, so that is my talk. I gave at least 10 minutes, I think, or 15 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Listening to your talk, I was, for many years, I took medical students down to the Amazon to study with the shaman. And we did, at a couple of occasions, we did ayahuasca. And as you know, ayahuasca can change your DNA.
I've done it.
Yeah, so anyway, that mantis being,
Yep.
I was working with the shaman. And this guy was floating over the jungle just like a Macy's balloon.
Yeah.
And I looked up and saw this mantis-like creature. And I thought, whoa, what's that? The next morning, we were all sitting around at breakfast with the shaman, and I described this creature. And the shaman got up, ran back to his hut, and he ran back and he said, "Is this what you saw?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You've got to stay. You're a shaman." But it was that creature.
Yes, it's a beautiful,
Thank you for
creature.
giving me that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Jason. I simply wanted to ask you what type of meditation you practice or any type of esoteric arts? And then also, if you don't mind sharing, what was the ancient mantra that protected you against that freaky being?
I'll start with the mantra. The mantra I used was Ra Ha. Ra Ha.
Okay.
And that mantra is to reorganize your energy and bring protection. Ra Ha. Okay, and the spiritual practice that I continue to do is the Egyptian postures of power, which is the postures that were originally taught to me. They still blow my mind.
Okay.
So as long as I'm practicing that, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Jason.
Hi.
You've messed up my whole life today.
You're welcome.
I just came in here because it was so hot outside. I had no idea. I don't even know where to start. Every day for the past 5 years, my partner and I do, it's called the GAP, Grounding Attunement Protection.
Yes.
And it's all about asking your spirit guides for help, calling on Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel, all that stuff.
Yes.
So you're saying that's all BS?
No.
No.
I'm not saying it's all BS.
You're just saying...
I'm just saying that we have to learn how to activate our own powers because we are stronger than that.
That fucks me up.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm going to read your book.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I want to
It's fine. That's fine.
thank you also so much. There was
Yes.
so much you said that I could relate to. I've had so many experiences with abusive childhood growing up in Harlem, and I see that connection, that dual universe. One thing I wanted to find out, you said, why are they attracted to certain people? My desire has always been, I don't want to be abducted. I don't want to be abducted. I've had so many, I've experienced the void, I've seen visions, so many things.
Yes.
And I keep saying in my head, I do not want to be abducted by an alien. I love all the experiences I have. I love crystals.
Yes.
I've done Qigong, all of that. Why do you think they abduct certain people? Aside from experimenting or trying to mate and all of that.
I think that people are ready to see beyond the physical nature, and I believe the abduction experience is 95% dimensional, 5% physical. So it's an awakening into our multidimensional awareness. So maybe some people are ready for it.
Okay. And what is PR3?
Oh, TBR3, that was the triangle, which I'll call military UFO that I saw over my town in Ontario.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. It was very illuminating, and I'm not sure this is a question more than a sharing, but
Okay.
I'm from New Orleans and worked post-Katrina for years and with many people from one of the old families. And we all had many transformatory things happen to us living in the disaster and in aftermath for years in an incredibly polluted place. And I used to go into my meditations and I'd be led to the Pleiades and find I was floating over my body in the hotel room. And that was what got me through it, really, the not breathing the pollution. And I wasn't alone. I'd go places and I guess because there weren't a lot of people there, people would come up and say, see your aura, and I'm here to walk with you to the next part of the city. And it was like that for many of us. It was most reassuring because it was so horrendous, and like that picture you showed.
Yes.
But it was wonderful because we weren't ever alone. And at one point, a band of Hungarian gypsies told me, they walked over and said, we see you there and we're here to adopt you till your work is done. And it didn't just happen to me. I mean, we'd all meet at the jazz clubs and kind of laugh in a happy way because it was so bad, it became funny that everything was so bad with Halliburton and the trailers and the pollution and the muck and the incredibly hard work that we went through. But the light was so, you could see it.
Yeah.
Walking around where the light was. So thank you. And one other wonderful person tribute, a wonderful lady, Island of Salvation Botanica, on Piety Street. She had a little shop, and it's now a whole healing center for all kinds of cultures. And we'd be guided there to get our remedies, like rose oil, to help us survive. So maybe that's some indication for the future on the earth.
Yeah.
Thank you for your exercises.
Oh, thank you. In fact, usually these things come when you're in your darkest place.
And with the community too.
Yes.
It was like that thing you said about the spider web.
Yes.
It was evident in the city. So thank you. I hope everyone has a good experience, even in worse times.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you. You've literally just changed my life forever.
Thank you.
And my question is, do you feel like there's a master plan behind all this? So like even all the negative entities, are they also, are they meant to be that way, kind of to bring about evolution?
They're your greatest teachers because you need something to give you struggle to grow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your talk. That was
You're
really
welcome.
wonderful. I feel like I've been really drawn and connected to the dream plane as well. Similar experience in terms of like waking up in someone's body and then looking in the mirror and being like, oh my God, I don't want to leave here. This is amazing. And just trying to not leave.
Okay.
But I'm interested, I'm interested in like how technology may kind of become involved with this world. I work in like meditation and technology, or technology to help support us. And I know you were saying that some of the technology was destroying the planet. So I'm curious, is there a way that there could be like a symbiosis with it? What would that look like?
You need to learn Tesla
Tesla.
because Tesla was given all the technology to transform this world.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Tesla in his laboratory used to have a metallic sphere come and watch him. And it bothered him so much that he made machines of high frequency to try to get this damn metallic sphere out of his laboratory. So was he being downloaded the technology to save the planet? I think so. Yep.
For this incredible, inspiring, powerful brother.
Ontario.